So are you ready?
Sure, go for it. I have a coffee and I'm sitting at the kitchen table, so I'm good to go.
Okay, so I guess we'll start from the beginning. So, tell me about yourself. I don't know if that's a question in its own, but what's the highest level of or what is your highest level of education as a nurse?
Well, I graduated from Queen's University in 1992, and then I worked for approximately a year, and I was super interested in critical care. So while I was working part-time, which at the time when I started, you were only able to get part-time positions, I went to St. Lawrence, which is also in Kingston, and took a critical care graduate certificate, so an extra year on top. So I had the ability to work in critical care at that time. So highest level of education would be my degree, but I did go back and get a specialized diploma as well.
Oh, cool. How long have you been a nurse?
Well, I was trying to do the math yesterday, and I graduated in '92, so that would make it 28 years, which is pretty crazy.
Wow. What areas in nursing have you worked?
When I started, I did my consolidation on an orthopedic floor. So at the time, hospitals weren't hiring anybody, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do for work because my friends at the time, most of them went to Texas for jobs. And I was lucky enough to have the manager of the floor where I did my consolidation seek me out actually at a friend's house prior to cell phones, and sought me out at a friend's house through multiple phone calls and offered me a job to start the next day. So I started on that orthopedic floor, and I worked there for a couple of years. But as I said, I was very interested in critical care. So I after I had that diploma in critical care, I was able to obtain a job in the intensive care unit at Kingston General. And at the time, they hadn't hired anybody into that unit in about 2 years. It was a very closed unit. It was a very senior unit. It was actually quite a challenge to get a critical care position. But I did get one, and I stayed there for, I think, a couple of years, and I was only able to have part-time work. So they were looking for full-time employees on other floors in the hospital, and at this point, I was probably 25, 26 years old, and still not working full time really wasn't the best. So I actually left critical care, which was my favorite, and worked on a neurosurgical floor for about 10 months. Decided it really wasn't a good fit for me, and I ended up being lucky enough. At the time, they were doing massive layoffs in the hospital. The whole medical system went through a big overhaul, and a lot of people were laid off. And at that point, I did have enough seniority that I was able to scoop up a full-time position in intensive care. Because people were afraid of having full-time positions because they were cutting them first. Anyway, I was dumb and took the position, and actually never ended up losing my position, and I've been there since. So I more or less have been in critical care for 25 of my 28 years of nursing.
Wow. I have heard from some other nurses that like the ICU is probably one of the busiest units you can be in.
I think everything now is really busy. I could never do what floor nurses do. Just the sheer volume of patients and families that you would encounter on a daily basis there is just overwhelming to me. I see our busyness as busy, but also manageable because you're only managing a set number of patients. You don't have the massive numbers.
Yeah.
So yes and no, but I guess it's all sort of what you've become accustomed to as well.
Okay. You already kind of answered what was your favorite and why.
Absolutely. Critical care is my favorite. I will never leave. I'm one of those old people that just, we call them lifers. I'm sure you've heard of it already.
I actually have not.
I'm a lifer in critical care. I'll be there until I retire. I love the autonomy of being able to do what I do. I do it the way I do it and in the time frame that I do it. And over time, you just sort of develop ways of doing things, and it's nice to be able to do it my way. There's still a huge learning curve there. Every day you're learning something new. I don't know if you worked elsewhere, there would be such a learning curve. Every day I come home from work and say, hey, I saw this today, or hey, I learned this today. There's such a variety of patients and people and family and different staff that you work with, that you're always learning something new. So it's never boring. Stressful, yes, but never boring. And what I really like about it is it's very much team based. So not just me as an RN working there. You're working with speech therapy and physio and occupational therapy and social work, and we're a teaching hospital in Kingston, so there are all different levels of residents through. We have fellows that train with us. You get to know a huge variety of people, and it's kind of fun to work in a giant team like that.
I can imagine that would be different job every day.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question 2: what led to your interest in nursing?
I sort of ended up doing what I do in a sort of strange but boring way. I actually, at the time, when I was looking for things to do, it wasn't going on to post-secondary wasn't as involved as it seems to be now for you guys. But it literally was the last day to apply to university, and I sat down with my friends and I said, okay, well, what am I going to do for a living? Where am I going to apply to go to school? Because I didn't really have my parents' involvement in any of it. It was just expected that I just do whatever. And so it was the last day to apply, and I think it was even after lunch. So I had a couple of hours to pick things. And at the time, I had a boyfriend in town, and my mother very much still likes me to be around. So I applied to go to school here. As well as a couple of other places. I was interested in a couple different things, but I ended up getting in here, and so here I am. Here I am. I don't know if I had it to do again, if I would choose this route, but I think I probably would have ended up choosing this route just because of the family dynamics that I have. But there are so many other different fun, interesting things. I think after 28 years in nursing, everybody would like to do something different. But yeah, that's how I ended up being here. It was family, friend connections. Also, I had a lot of experience as a lifeguard, so I was used to taking some of the healthcare things. So I was up on all my national lifeguarding things, and had some experience there helping people. I helped my grandparents. I was a care worker for them to help them save some money. So I did have some experience doing things. So I didn't really go into it blindly, but sort of blindly.
Sounds like a good way to get into it. So question 3, describe a situation connected with nursing that you experienced that had the greatest impact on you. Why was it memorable?
So I thought about this in the past, sort of what things in my career have made the greatest impact, and I try and come up with different answers every time, and I'm never able to go past one thing, and it's an experience that I had, I'm not sure how many years ago. It was maybe 16 years ago or so. I honestly can't remember, but I was relatively new in charge on the unit, and that bears with it a whole bunch of other responsibilities. But we're the main, Kingston is the major trauma center for southeastern Ontario. So we get a lot of stuff. So we had a trauma that hit emergency, and we had to take 3 patients from the trauma. And one of the patients was the person that created the trauma, and the other 2 people that we got were pediatric traumas. And from that accident, there were 3 other pediatric traumas that were killed at the scene. Mm. So we got these traumas in these 2 pediatric cases, and we're not a pediatric intensive care unit. We were better then able to manage them. We're not able to manage them now at all. But back then we were better able to manage them, but you have to do a lot of patient assignment changes and pull people from different places and switch out things and move people around to sort of put these people together. And but what was the worst part about these traumas, and not the fact that we also had the person that created the trauma in there with us, but the one patient died relatively soonish after they arrived, and I remember the family coming in and the mother at the bedside, and just the guttural wails of grief that she had. And at the time, it was a horrible experience. I remember going to the back room and just sort of hiding for a bit, because it was just trying to help that situation. It was such a horrific situation that to cope with that, I think I still have issues with it. And just how the patient arrived and whatnot, and I think the thing that has affected me mostly in my life is that trauma. Not just the trauma of the incident, but the trauma of witnessing it. And it's just made me have a different outlook on life. I hug my kids more. I enjoy my family more. I'm not a materialistic person. I enjoy being with my people. The health and well-being of my unit of people is of utmost priority to me. I've always, going forward from that point on, if there's a chance to go home from work, and even take it without pay, I will come home from work because I want to spend more time with my family. I've always joked and said, well, I need to work full time because I need full time hours, and I need the security of the benefits of being full time. But very much, I want to be a part time person because I want to be a full time mother, and I want to spend as much time with my people as I can, because you just do not know what's going to happen. So that absolutely has had the greatest effect on me, and I carry that with me every day. Mm. So there's your answer to that one. I tried to come up with a different answer for that, but that is the biggest. That has had the biggest effect on how I live every day.
I can imagine. So what are 2 of the best aspects of being a nurse?
2 of the best things. The best things, again, the autonomy of doing what I do. Able to, as a charge nurse, I've been a charge nurse probably for about 8 years. So in that role, I'm allowed to just sort of do what I do and manage things how I manage things, which is great. Our unit is big enough that I sort of co-share that position with somebody else. We sort of have 2 small units put together. But by small units, our entire unit is 33 beds. So it's a big number of beds. It's too much for one charge to manage. So our charge positions are sort of split up into staffing on one and sort of patient flow on the other. And I have the ability to sort of go back and forth between the roles. But then work as a team with my co-charge. So that is great. So that autonomy is great. The teamwork part of it is great. I love working with people. That's my favorite part of my job, is working with people. It's fun. People are great. There's really nice people out there. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to work with. We have almost 300 nurses. So you never know who you're going to work with, and that is super enjoyable to me.
Okay. What are two of the greatest challenges to you as an individual due to this career choice? How did you address or manage each of these challenges?
I think the greatest challenge is the shift work part of it, and having a good family and work-life balance. I was lucky enough many years ago, I think it was 2003, I went from working 2 weeks of days and 2 weeks of nights repeated, to a trial schedule of 2 days followed by 2 nights and then 5 days off, with like a odd day thrown in once a month. And for that, you could take vacation or a lieu day or whatever. So I think balancing the work life was easier to obtain once I switched to that new schedule. Working 2 weeks a days, 2 weeks nights is absolutely exhausting. It made me a miserable, horrible person. I was horrible with my family. I was horrible to myself. But working two days and then 2 nights, for me, I find that it's much more manageable. I've been a much happier person. I'm able to enjoy my home life better, and I'm not as bitter about working the nights that I do at work. Also in there as well, you're working every other Christmas, you're working every other New Year's, you're working Easter when everybody's having dinner, you're working Thanksgiving when everybody's having dinner, you're having to book time off for Halloween with your kids. You're missing a lot of basketball practices and gym meets and any of those things that I went to, and just trying to have enough holidays to be able to spend that time with your family that I've already explained why it's so important to me. So I think that's the hardest thing, but I think overcoming it was switching to a different schedule. And just as you become more senior, you get more holidays, and you just save all your holidays for your people. So that's fine. It's actually a great career for managing your work-life balance. It's a good choice for that, because it does give you lots of options. Another thing that I've found that sort of relates to me that I've sort of had to deal with over the years is actually becoming more senior and having been there the longest now, almost, of a lot of people. Every sort of year and a half or 2 years, we have sort of an exflux of senior people that leave, and it's now to the point that there's one more layer, and then it's my turn, and it's sort of been hard over the years to lose all the knowledge that people that were more senior to me had. They had crazy knowledge. I don't know how they learned all the things they learned, but they know so much stuff that is just lost now, and it's hard. You read a lot of articles about nurses eating their young and that sort of thing, and I think I think that sort of stems from a lot of fear, because I find as an older nurse there isn't a lot of support for us. There isn't a lot of support for the knowledge that we have, and there's a lack of understanding about the knowledge that has been lost in general from people that have gone, and people coming in don't seem to have the same. It's like people are, and I even found when I was in school, and the explanation was, well, we're teaching you how to learn. Well, I don't need to be taught how to learn. I want to be taught how to be a good nurse. And there isn't the education now within the system to train people the way that they used to train people. So there is a bit of a knowledge gap, and it is a lack of funding within the healthcare system that people need to be trained, and they're not getting it. So I find there's a lot of pressure on the people with more experience because they have that training and the younger ones don't, and I think it's frustrating for everybody. So that's something else that's sort of a barrier, and something that I've found a personal challenge.
Okay. What advice would you give to me as an individual starting in the nursing profession?
This one's easy because I give it all the time because I meet lots of new people and lots of students. And my number one things are get as much experience as you can. Try every single area of nursing that you're able to. Try hospital nursing, try community nursing, try like primary health nursing. You'd really be surprised at what you like. There's so many things out there, such a wide variety of things you can do, and you may find something that you never knew that you liked or you didn't even know existed, because I can't just imagine the number of things that exist out there. So try everything. The second thing, enjoy everybody you meet. There's so many different people. Everybody has a different experience. Everybody came into the profession for a different reason. There's so many people out there, even patients, families, different professions. There's so many people to enjoy. Another thing is, don't ever stand back. Don't be the person that's standing outside the door watching what's going on inside the room. Get in the room. People will take you. They will show you things. They will help you. They will get your hands in there. You will learn so much stuff. So don't be the watcher, be the doer. Even if you walk in and you say, I don't know anything, I'm new, but I want to help. People will give you a task to do, and that alone will make it easier for you going forward and more enjoyable for you going forward. Don't be afraid to do things, because people will take you, they will show you things, and you will learn so much. It's crazy. And then my last piece of advice is start saving your money early. Get into your RSPs early. Get into the pension as soon as you can. Work as much as you can while you're young, because once you do, or if you do end up having a family going forward, you're going to want to take time for them because they're your priority.
Okay. Just, are there any questions that you have for me?
My first one was, what school and what year are you in?
I'm in Trent University and first year.
Lovely. And how are you finding everything online, or is everything online?
Everything is online. I definitely prefer in-class learning, though.
Yeah. So are they going to have any clinical for you at all, or is everything sort of up in the air?
It looks like next semester we'll have like a residential clinical, but I don't know if COVID does have a second wave, if that will affect sort of second semester. So
yeah, it's frustrating for everybody.
Yeah. Okay,
So those were my big questions. Do you have any other follow-up questions or anything for me that I didn't explain properly, or?
No, I'll just turn off the recording now.